And it's been a long time, but welcome back to the 50/50 podcast, the only podcast officially sponsored by Culver's and Ponchos and Lefties on the square in Monroe, Wisconsin. Get there while you still can before you're quarantined. I'm Tyler.
I'm Connor.
I'm Nick.
There it is.
This is the special guest, Nick Miller, who I've never met before in my entire life, nor did I know who it would be. So I'm going to let Connor take over on this intro.
Yeah, for the first time ever, we have one of my friends instead of one of random Tyler's friends that I don't know, and it's always awkward. Thanks for that, bud. But
he doesn't know Lou. He still doesn't know Lou.
In classic 50/50 fashion, we are going to ask our guest some surprise questions that he wasn't prepared for. Just to get to know him a little bit. So start off easy. Tell us a little bit about your favorite team / sports history. What do you play in high school? Stuff like that.
Right. So I was a wrestler, football player, baseball player in high school. I ended up having a pretty decent career in football and wrestling, baseball. Our team sucked, so I just tried to have fun in that. My favorite teams, obviously a Bucks fan, Badgers fan, Packers fan. Brewers when they're in season, not as much. I mean, baseball's a little bit more boring, but whatever. Yeah, that's tough. I've also gotten actually into a little bit more like international soccer in recent years, but that's more on the DL.
Yeah, don't tell anyone about that.
I wanted that.
Wait, are you EPL? Are you Series A? What are you?
BPL mostly. I follow mostly Manchester United. I know I'm that's like the Golden State Warriors of international soccer, but sue me.
I mean, they're kind of trash now, anyways. But
I'm buying. It's a buyer's market for Manchester United.
Exactly.
So
I also got a real hometown boy. I like it.
Yeah, I don't really stray too much. I mean, I was a Clippers fan when they had what I thought was going to be the next super team, but we all know how that ended. getting bounced by the Grizzlies every year in the first round, so that was fun.
We were just talking about that 20 minutes ago. No joke. Because I was talking about how CP3 has had a tough time, and then Connor was like, yeah, he's kind of brought it on himself a few times. So I was like, well, I mean, like he was on that Clippers team that was supposed to be really fucking good. But I was like, he couldn't control Blake Griffin getting hurt. But whatever.
I can't remember if it was Connor and I talking about this the other day, but I was saying how if KD would have went to the Clippers, which barring him getting locked inside a mansion overnight, it looked like he was going to go to the Clippers. Right, like people forget about that. That was right before he signed with the Golden State Warriors. He was pretty sure he was going to go to the Clippers, and I said, top to bottom, I trust that team more than top to bottom the Golden State Warriors that ended up becoming when he went there. So, I mean, CP3, JJ Redick, KD, Blake Griffin, DeAndre Jordan. That's an all-time starting lineup if KD goes there. But instead, we got Caron Butler. Thank you.
That would have been a squad. Holy shit.
Oh yeah.
All right. Next question. What is your current rank in competitive Apex Legends?
Ooh.
That's a good one. I don't play ranked anymore because they changed it. So now I don't want to bore people too much, but now it's only the top 500 people that hit Predator. I made Predator last competitive season, but now that they added Master as like the rank right below Predator, I'm like, dude, I'm not going to be top 500 in the world, so there's no point in playing ranked anymore. And now that they just juiced skill-based matchmaking, it's like ranked anyways because I'm playing against all the other good players. So.
You hear that, ladies? He was a Predator at one point.
Yeah, I got the badge. That's all I was in for, the badge and the weapon charm.
All right, this is a classic 50/50 question. Who's the best 22 to ever do it in Milwaukee for the Bucks?
Oh man, maybe it's recency bias, but I think Chris Middleton is criminally underrated, and I think he might be. I think he's kind of entering into the pantheon. I think just because of how good Giannis is, he gets overshadowed. But even if we didn't have Giannis, I think that would just show how much more of a stud Chris Middleton is. Because, I mean, Giannis has – what's that?
You're saying Chris Middleton without Giannis would be equal to or better than Michael Redd was as the first option?
I think that's a fair assessment of what I'm thinking because you got to understand that Giannis has the highest usage rate of any player, not only this season, but he has one of the highest usage rates ever. He's always got the ball in his hand and everything, and that's good. When when you have a big, gangly, slender man, muscle head on your team, that's kind of who you want to have the ball. But when you have a usage rate like that, obviously you're going to take it out of Chris's hands, and you're going to kind of damper whatever potential he had. And he's still an all-star. He's still one of the better wings in the league, and that's with somebody who's a very ball-dominant person on his team. So, yeah, I think that's a fair assessment. And he's done all this in the very beginning of his career. He's still got, 5 years left on his prime? Come on.
Okay, that's fair.
He did just have that 50-point game this year too.
Yeah, when Giannis was out.
Again, I think he's the. I don't know if I'd call him a superstar, but I think he's the star that no one ever talks about. If there's one really top tier talent in the NBA that no one ever talks about, and Chris Middleton kind of fits the bill for that.
All right, I like it. That's always a good answer when you elaborate. Another 2-part question here, another 50-50 classic. Are you a season ticket holder for the Green Bay Packers?
Not, and I blame my parents. I think I think if they would have set it up for me when I was in my fetal stages, I probably could be going to games by now. But no, I wish. I mean, I'll probably, now that I'm an adult myself, I'll probably get on the list, but I won't get the tickets until I'm 157 or something.
Part 2 of the question: are you a part owner of the Green Bay Packers?
I'm not, but that's something I've been asking for Christmas for my parents. Again, I think it's just my parents hate me. I blame them. I take no responsibility.
I don't know if we can let them on the show anymore.
Yeah, you gotta be one or the other, buddy.
Yeah, you gotta be a part owner here. Keeping on track of the Packers, being a Whitewater man like myself, did you ever interact with Jake Kumaro when he was here?
I didn't. I think his senior year was my freshman year, I believe. And so I started spring semester, so I got to miss out on all the fun of Whitewater's football team. So
fair.
I'm pretty sure his senior season was the fall right before I started. So
fair.
I'm wondering, I don't know how he's going to pan out in terms of whether he's staying or not, because I think he's on a contract year, right?
Yes.
Yep.
When it comes to our receiving core, as long as we already cut Jimmy Graham, that's the best we could have done. That's a win in my book.
Fair. Moving on. Were you a Greg Gard doubter?
You're talking about the Badgers head coach, right?
Yes, yeah. Badger basketball.
Yeah. Listen, man, I think the Badgers are the perennial team that are overhyped by Badgers fans, underrated by everyone else, and in reality, we're always just kind of an Elite Eight team at best. I like to think that we had a chance when we had Sam Decker and we had Frank Kaminsky and we had all these wing scorers, these guys that could go and hit threes if they needed to. But I think realistically, we're a football school that has a decent basketball team from time to time. Now, in terms of guard, I was a doubter. Yeah, I didn't see this level of success. I didn't see them being, Big Ten champions or anything like that. Or I guess now we can just say that they're national champions now that there's not going to be national champions. But I guess I would count myself as a doubter. Yeah, but it's been a pleasant surprise this year. I'll say that much.
Fair. I also was a Greg Gard doubter. Can roll back the tape on the podcast and talk about me getting him fired, but I guess here we are. Thanks, Greg. What is your order at Culver's?
Why have I never thought of this question before?
What do you order when you walk into Culver's?
Here, you guys.
Hello?
Have we lost him?
Did he? Oh. Hello?
Stand by. Don't worry, we got this.
Getting back on track here. Did you hear my question?
I didn't hear anything for the recent past.
What do you order at Culver's?
So I know you have context for this, but I don't think anyone listening at home has context. I'm kind of a big dude, so I tend to over order food. So I'll order a double cheddar butterburger basket, keep the fries,
Okay.
swap out the drink for a chocolate malt, and then order a side order of chicken tenders as well.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
Wait,
Kind of a psycho.
OG chicken tenders or the buffalo chicken tenders?
I get the OG. I'm not as much of a buffalo guy. I do respect the side
Oh.
hustle if you're going with the if you go with the buffalo.
Have you had the buffalo tenders?
I just think that the chicken tenders at Culver's are so much higher quality than anything else in the same category that I don't need the buffalo to add to its greatness.
I think in my opinion, the thing that like sets them apart for me is the breading for the buffalo is like different. Like it's not just that it's spicier; it's just like it's different and it's a better texture.
Relating back to our previous conversation, if Chris Middleton was a food, he'd be the buffalo tenders from Culver's. Super underrated.
Ooh.
I don't know that they are underrated though. I think everybody knows that the tenders at Culver's are fantastic. I think that's like their staple.
But the buffalo tenders.
Oh, I see. Yeah, that might be a fair assessment. Just like ridiculously good, but no one talks about it.
Exactly. All right. Should the Fiserv Forum, because we all know that name sucks, should the Fiserv Forum have been called the Butterburger Arena or the Gruber Law Office Stadium?
I think it should have been the Peter Francis Geraci Memorial Stadium.
Oh my god.
That's fair. No more explanation needed. All right. Final question. This is the big one, all right? Final question. Here we go. The year is 2012. The Oklahoma City Thunder have just lost in the finals, and the rumor is spreading that the big three, KD, Russ, and Harden, are leaving OKC. Who do you take to build a franchise around, and in what order?
Okay, so I think that regardless of your predisposition or favorite players amongst that group of three, I think it's hard to say that any of them are better than KD. I think KD has time and time again set himself as just a notch above Westbrook and Harden. Now, the Westbrook and Harden debate you can have until you're red in the face, and I think there's a salient debate to be made there. But I think KD is pretty much the only good option, not the only good option, but the best option of the three. He's more ubiquitous. He can play pretty much any position. He's one of the best scorers probably ever in terms of just scoring. I think he's probably up there. And so I think it's hard to choose against KD. And then from there, and then it's just a matter of preference. I think Harden is easier to build around, but Westbrook probably has a higher ceiling if you put a good team around. Listen, Westbrook plays like a Giannis that's like 7 inches shorter. That's basically how Westbrook plays. And so if they put a bunch of wing guys around him like what they did in Milwaukee, because even look at our centers can shoot. Brook Lopez is one of our better 3-point shooters. So I think if you build a team like that around Westbrook, you'd set him up for success. But I know this is a debate that you and I have had for a long time. I just think that having two really ball-centric guards on the same team as they do on the Rockets, I just don't think is very conducive of success. Because that's a different, like, if you look at someone like Steph and Clay, they're a lot more unselfish and they do a lot more. Clay's an elite defender. Steph is a great passer and ball handler. And I just don't see it as much from Harden and Westbrook. But if I had to choose between the two in terms of building a team, I'd probably pick Harden. He's just such an elite scorer. And it doesn't translate much into the playoffs because the refs tend to swallow their whistles a little bit. But I think Harden can get you in some good positions that I'm not sure. I look at how Harden carried the Rockets, and I liked that a lot more than how Westbrook carried the Thunder. So,
for those of you listening, and I guess Tyler, This is what we talk about at work all the time. For
It's the conversation.
Literal hours. We just discuss who's better, Russ or Harden. And I'm always on the Russ train, and he's always on the Harden train. So I just thought I'd make a little joke to that. But,
yeah, no, that
yes.
is our most heated debate.
Literally. So that's my last question. If you want to get into,
Yeah, I'm ready to go. So we're changing up our format from our original idea today. So we're just gonna go over a few topics. We'll kind of explain why at the end of the episode. But first thing we're gonna talk about, because we haven't been on since September 30th, we're gonna talk about baseball. So I guess we'll just kind of catch up everyone who's not been paying attention. So about 90% of you. The Nationals came out World Series champions, all because of a botched play in a wild card game, or not even a wild card game. No, it was a wild card game, wasn't it? Yeah, because it was against the Brewers. So Nats went on an incredible run, win the World Series. Few months pass, and then the whole sign stealing investigation comes out. And the Astros have now been found guilty of stealing signs electronically, which I guess like a bigger thing to get into. Nick can probably comment on it, but there's a big difference between sign stealing and like tipping pitches, which people were like confusing. Like tipping pitches and like catching up on and like picking up on it and like relaying it to your team isn't really against the rules of baseball at all. Nor is like someone being on second and being able to like relay the signs to the batter. But usually by that point, especially in the professional leagues or even in college, the catchers are going through the sequences, and those kind of vary team to team. But I think the biggest thing here is the fact that Manfred hasn't really done anything to make it a situation that won't happen again. He's shown that he really doesn't care about it. He basically gave the Astros a slap on the wrist. And then when talking about the World Series trophy, he called it just a piece of metal, which, quite frankly, I know pissed a lot of people off, including me, because it's more than that. It's a trophy that these men have worked their asses off for their entire life, and are trying to work, or still trying to work their ass off for, just to earn and be part of an exclusive club. And it's really soured baseball for me. I don't know if I'll be able to watch as much as I did last year, but I'm kind of soured.
I can rightfully say that I will never watch baseball ever again.
That's how I feel this is kind of gonna go.
I can rightfully say that I wasn't watching baseball before unless I wanted to really take a nap.
Ooh.
I think the level of intrigue, like I treat baseball the same way I do international soccer in a certain way, where I watch the highlights. The best way to watch a baseball game is the condensed highlights on Fox Sports or wherever on YouTube after the game's already concluded. And I think like if you're sitting down and tuning into a baseball game, that's a hard watch for 2-3 hours of your life. It's not it's not basketball, it's not football, it's something different where most of the time they're literally just standing around.
It's a slow-moving game, and if you don't have commentators that like keep it entertaining, it can make it tough. God. But I like being at a game is like completely different because there's a lot of things going on.
Very true. One of the most fun sports to attend in person. I'll say that.
Yeah, but like it's like it was really easy. Like when I started treating it as like listening to a podcast, so I'd like have the audio going and just be like doing something around the house, and that was like so much easier to like keep up with games. So. But yeah, I don't know. I have such a disdain for the commissioner and for the Astros now that I don't know what I'm going to do with my life come summer if there ever is going to be a baseball season.
No, if we were ever going to see a Bill Belichick move in another sport, but we totally did.
Yeah.
What a refreshing surprise to see some Bill Belichick stuff outside of football.
Yeah. All right. So moving on to college football. It was a pretty fun season for Wisconsin. I'd say that Big Ten championship was fun to watch for the first half.
Oh yeah.
So I guess I will start out. Giving grades for the overall season, including the bowl game, me personally, I thought it was a B. It was an above average season. It would be like a B plus, or for like in college, a B. If they hadn't lost that Illinois game, but because of that loss, it's a B for me. They played pretty well in that Big Ten championship. I thought the response the following week after the Illinois game to Ohio State was kind of pathetic and lethargic, and it really showed that there were still tackling issues. Really showed that not having Nelson back playing safety didn't help, because he was out since the USF game. The Rose Bowl was a tough one to get through, but it was nice to be back. Nice to be back in Pasadena.
True.
You guys' thoughts?
Wisconsin.
No, go ahead.
Wisconsin football and losing the Rose Bowl. Name a better duo. I'll wait.
Russell Wilson spiking the game away. I like that they're relevant in terms of draft picks again. I mean, when's the last time we were talking about first round draft picks coming out of Wisconsin that aren't offensive linemen? You know, I think
True.
Jonathan Taylor's kind of put us on the map at least a little bit.
Although was TJ Watt kind of a surprise being taken in the first round?
Not to me, because I feel like the Packers should have taken him.
Yeah.
When we had the opportunity, but maybe to like a non-Wisconsin fan, then yeah, probably.
Okay.
Well, and to think, I mean, retrospectively, it's not a surprise considering some would say that he was slighted out of Defensive Player of the Year this year. I'm not so sure. Stephon Gilmore was locked down for pretty much the entire season, but TJ Watt is a monster. Who would have thought that of the Watt brothers that TJ would it's looking like TJ might be the best of the I know JJ, it's too early to say because JJ won like Defensive Player of the Year 2-3 times, but God, with his injuries, I don't know if I'll trade 2 Defensive Player of the Years for how many games he's missed. I don't know if I make that concession. So I don't know.
Yeah.
It's too early to say.
Yeah. I guess staying on the college train. Obviously JT's mentioned, like, I think it was we were looking 24th overall is what it sounds like he's gonna go.
24 to 28 ish.
Yeah, which I mean, like, he might go up. I don't know, because he has speed and elusiveness, which like you kind of really can't teach. But I was talking with one of my friends. Shout out to Michael Madden. We were talking over some lunch back in January, and he was like talking about how he really feels that like his ball handling, which is very questionable, he feels like that can kind of be taught yet, and he can still improve that, because I know ball handling has been a problem with him because he's had a few fumbles the past seasons. But yeah, I don't think he falls any further. I think if he goes anywhere, he goes up.
I agree. He's projected as the number 1 running back in the draft. So
yeah,
like any team that actually needs a serious running threat will pick him up right away.
Yeah, serious running back and on the cheap.
I think the person that if he does end up breaking into the top 20 or even a little bit higher than that, I think he owes a steak dinner to Derrick Henry, because Derrick Henry has kind of put the running back on the map, because people were saying that it's no longer viable to have a run-centric offense in the modern NFL. And with the success of somebody like the Chiefs primarily, you could see that. But I think the 49ers being as dominant as they were, and then Derrick Henry going on the run that he did, especially through the playoffs, I think scouts are more open to the idea of putting a running back first and foremost on their offense rather than the passing game, which I think does nothing but help John Taylor's draft stock. So,
yeah. So anything else you boys want to mention about Wisconsin?
I'm excited for next year. I think Jack Cohn's doing a really good job.
I think we're definitely not going to have a spring game unless it's in May.
No,
but
absolutely not.
I think the competition this summer between him and Mertz is going to be really
which
good.
Is always good for the development of both of them.
Yeah, and like Mertz even came in and took some actual snaps this year, so that was nice to see.
Mm-hmm.
I guess a couple things I wanted to mention before we move on was I'm going to pump some tires of some Ohio State fans here. But number one, in my opinion, Chase Young got robbed of the Heisman this year. He was honestly, I don't know. To me, he was a clear-cut candidate. Like, the dominance he had this year was insane, even though he missed, 1 game, 2 games? Like, he was something you had to game. You had no choice but to game plan around. He was disruptive so much on the defensive front. Like, he is going to be insanely good in the NFL. It's stupid how good that young man is. No pun intended. And then second thing I want to pump for Ohio State fans was they were robbed of that scoop and score against Clemson, and I somehow remembered this. So I kind of got to see this play. I was sitting in an Italian restaurant somewhere in downtown Denver while I was driving out to Pasadena watching this game, but I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me because if you have, and especially in even in the NFL, 2 feet in, and you catch the ball and then you step out of bounds, it's a catch. But the Clemson receiver, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, he took 3 steps and then fumbled the ball, but they didn't roll it a football move, so it was incomplete. I don't know. It just the whole catch thing is now just back to being confusing. It doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't know that they ever fixed it ever since the Dez game. Probably, I think that's kind of what kicked it all off. I'm not sure that they've really worked to. Honestly, the way it's going to have to go, and again, this is an unpopular opinion, but they're just going to have to do what they do in soccer, is just have, because in soccer the VAR is used on every scoring opportunity or any potential penalty. They use it on everything. And I think that it's just going to have to start being more and more out of the referee's hands. And it's going to break up the flow of the game, and it's going to be really annoying for teams and all this. But I think when it comes to stuff like that, I was there for, I wasn't there in person, but I'm old enough to remember when we were in Seattle and we had the Fail Mary. If that could have gotten right because they phoned it up to the booth and took an extra 30 seconds to look at it, I'm totally fine with that. And I think that's the way they should switch it. And I think that's the way that pretty much almost all the sports would benefit from switching to an instant replay thing, where it's not like they're going to go and look inside. Like the ref is going to, the geriatric man in stripes is going to walk over to the big teleprompter, and he's going to tuck his head under the towel, and then he's going to come out with the big decision. I think it should just automatically be a part of the game where they're telling you, yes, it was a catch, no, it wasn't a catch, and they tell you instantly.
Yeah, I think that's especially in football, that's starting. I wouldn't say it's an unpopular opinion, but it's just a very unknown opinion, at least to some I would say very casual and somewhat hardcore fans, especially those that don't really pay attention to Twitter or the internet. But yeah, it's definitely becoming a bigger, a more favorable opinion that VAR, especially in football, because the action's already broken up so much that there's really no flow to the game anymore. There's so many challenges and so many stoppages that you might as well just put in VAR at this point for football. So
certain angles, you really think that the refs can catch every single angle, especially when you have the best athletes on the planet twisting and contorting and being covered up by another one of the best athletes on the planet. I wouldn't be surprised if there's another. It seems like every year there's a contentious catch or non-catch that goes the wrong way, and I think VAR would just make those situations happen less, and that's kind of the goal. I just want them to get the call right.
Yeah. The only other thing I wanted to mention, I'm sure Connor can attest to this, but I just want to give a big love shout out to my man Joe Burrow and his dominance at LSU.
Definitely a potential candidate for Flow of the Year.
Oh my God, he's got some good hair. Damn, like I don't know what it is about Joe Burrow, but I love that man. I will love him till the day I die. So let's move on. Let's talk about some NFL.
Oh wait, no, hold on, back up.
Hold up.
There's something I remembered from Wisconsin. All right, when you're editing this on the YouTube video, all right, you bring up a big picture of Danny Davis right now, okay? And then put a big ass red X through him. You're done. No more future of the program. You're done, Danny Davis. All right. Now that I'm done denouncing him.
All right. To the NFL. So I don't know. Same thing. I'm gonna give Packers a grade on their season. I'm gonna give it I don't know. I feel like it's an AB because I was pleasantly surprised. I didn't think that they were gonna do this well and make it to the NFC Championship, but here we are. Winning ugly got them all the way. So
B plus.
Yeah, B plus AB.
First 12-4 team ever.
there was somewhere on a Reddit thread where like some guy was like the Packers could win the Super Bowl and they'd still be like, yeah, I don't know if they're that good though. I still don't know. But yeah, it was a crazy playoffs. I mean, they invested too heavily in the pass rush to cover up their issues on the containing the running backs of the league, and it really showed in the San Fran game both times.
True.
So hopefully that is one thing Goody addresses this season. Another thing, there was no true number 2 wide receiver, in my opinion. There's Tay as a solid number 1, and then there was like a 4, and that's it. Like that was the next highest.
Can we stop for a second and talk about how Devontae Adams is basically the Chris Middleton of the NFL? He is
oh my God,
he is every bit as good as DeAndre Hopkins or any of these other top tier receivers that you talk about. And he never gets put in those conversations. Listen, I remember when he was like the 4th choice in terms of our pass game, when we had Randall Cobb and Jordy and all these boys that were really, really talented. And he had it all. He had the route running. He had the instincts and stuff. He just couldn't catch the ball. That was always his big thing. And now that he can catch everything, I just feel like they talk about him like he's an extension of Aaron Rodgers, and he is definitely not. Because if he was just an extension of Aaron Rodgers, MVS would have panned out to be a decent option. I mean, granted, I think he was hurt for most of the season, or pretty much the whole season. But I think the only other hope that we have is Alan Lazard panning out a little bit more. He was like the one bright spot of the young guys. But
Twitter god
Geronimo Allison didn't do anything this year.
Twitter god.
Oh, Jesus. Hopefully EQ comes back strong too. Like he was hurt the whole season, and like MVS was dealing with injuries the entire season as well. Yeah, I doubt they're gonna re-sign Geronimo, but Alan Lazard could be one that they re-sign.
Talking about Tay, I thought it was so funny after Super Bowl when Sammy Watkins just came out and said like, "Oh yeah, I just watched Devontae Adams beat Richard Sherman and just did what he did." Like, that was the funniest. It just shows how good he is, like in the 1v1, like in general. He's super underrated. I agree.
Just pull up the video of Ocho Cinco just crying about him running routes, man. That's all you got to do. Oh my God. Yeah. So yeah, any I guess free agents, like anybody on the draft boards that you see the Packers pursuing heavily. Mason Crosby's already been resigned. Obviously, Jimmy Graham's been cut.
We brought in Christian Kirksey from Cleveland.
Love it. Love that move.
Yeah, same. Him and Blake Martinez side by side.
Disgusting. How do you guys feel about keeping Fackrell around?
For the price, I like him more than Martinez.
Sure. But he's more of an outside option though than being a Mike.
I think what we need as a team, and it's a hard thing to get, but Kirksey might kind of fit the bill. We need some big, not necessarily fast. I mean, Kirksey's pretty athletic for an inside linebacker, but we need some big, good instincts, run stuffing middle linebacker that's kind of in his swan song, like in his last legs of his career. I know Terrell Suggs is an outside linebacker, but that's kind of what the Chiefs did with Terrell Suggs. They brought him in, and he's this like veteran presence that knows the mental aspect of. I mean, because let's be honest, Terrell Suggs got to play under the tutelage of Ray Lewis, who is probably the best inside linebacker to ever do it. And so, like, he got to translate a lot of those instincts to the linebacking core at large. And I think if we get some older, cheaper guy, especially cheaper because we don't have much cap space, I think that would go a long way.
Jimmy Graham helped a little bit.
It did. Yeah. I think it got us an additional $8 million or something like that. So I mean, we needed to do that. He didn't produce on the level that we were paying him.
Yeah.
Like I don't know who I told this to, but he reminded me of like the late Clay Matthews, where he would do one good thing a game and then just suck shit the rest of the time.
I was talking to Zach about this, another guy that we work with, and I said the worst thing that could happen for the Packers is make it to the Super Bowl and lose the Super Bowl, but Jimmy Graham has a huge NFC Championship game. Because if we didn't win the Super Bowl, then we didn't win the Super Bowl, obviously. But if Jimmy Graham had if he had like 150 receiving yards and we beat the Niners, and he like let's say he had 150 yards and 2 touchdowns, then Packers Nation would have been like, well, obviously we got to keep him. He was imperative to our success. It's like, no, he was not at all, except for one game. So I like Jimmy Graham as a person, but he was getting way overpaid for his production, and I think we can get that level of production from those other boys that we got.
I'm just going to say that they need to keep Danny Vitale around, or I'm going to lose my mind.
True.
The man is a straight-up thug. He destroys linebackers. He eats defensive interior linemen for dinner. God.
I think, low-key, the biggest re-signing for the Packers was Kenny Clark. I think that goes overlooked, that he's probably... I know there's a lot of pounds there, but pound for pound might be the best D tackle in the league, and he's young too. I think he's only like 26 or something.
Yeah,
so I remember. Go ahead.
I remember when he got drafted, and we were watching because it was he would have been like round 3 or 4. So we just had like the TV on the draft as we're like messing around in the house, and this was back when I lived on Bowen, and they picked up Kenny Clark, and I watched some of his tape, and I was like, this dude is basically BJ Raji, but better. Like, he's going to be better than BJ Raji. And my roommate, Derek, who was the guy who said, Connor remembers me telling this, that we could get Kawhi for Jabari straight up back in the day.
Yikes.
Same guy was like, no, that's not going to happen. He's not going to be better than BJ.
Okay, so we're not getting him on the show anytime soon.
That is a terrible take. Oh my god.
Eric got to meet him IRL, so you can ask him about that.
Sure, Eric doesn't want to recount that experience.
Yeah, no, Clark is so criminally underrated as a defensive player.
So here's my question for you boys. Do you think we should go for a wide receiver in free agency, or do you think we should draft receivers?
That's I mean, both, I guess, because there are some pretty good receivers in the draft.
Probably
but
the deepest receiving class that we've seen in probably forever. I mean, this is a huge receiving class.
Yeah, I wouldn't waste a first-round pick on it, though, I don't think.
So
first round, I would probably go because it doesn't look like they're gonna resign Brian, so I'd probably go with a tackle. But that's just me.
I think that this is, an unpopular. Not a lot of teams abide by this idea, but I've always said when it comes to drafting players, you draft the best player that's available, not necessarily what you need. You draft whoever is the best guy that's there, and then you deal with whether or not you're going to make it work after. Because if he's more valuable than any of the other guys that are around, that's what we did. I mean, you could make the argument that we needed a quarterback of the future after Favre, but when we drafted Aaron Rodgers, it was like, he just kind of fell into our lap. And I don't think necessarily we were looking for a quarterback, but if he falls into your lap, you got to take him. And I think that's the same thing. We got to see how the draft goes. And then I'm hoping there's like a gas mask bong video of Tua that comes out and we can do the same thing that we did with Aaron Rodgers and he just falls in their draft. It would suck for him, but like if we, I like Tua more than Joe Burrow. It seems like the you guys are not of that opinion, but I think Tua's got more of a ceiling and a lower basement, to be fair. But I think we just got to see what's available because 24 or what is it, 28? Whichever.
For our pick,
we're 30.
We're 30.
30. I think when you're in the late first round, I think you just got to see what's the best player there and a wide receiver or an inside linebacker or an offensive tackle. Any of those work. They're all depth positions. They all are needs for us. And I think especially wide receivers is the best class that we're going to see in a while. So,
I mean, I think you're right. You're right that it's an unpopular opinion, but I can kind of see it becoming commonplace now, especially since bigger trades are happening in the NFL. As we witnessed this year, like there were a lot of big trades that no one saw coming, and the NFL is not really known for having big marquee trades. So
here's and I don't know if this is necessarily on the run sheet, but here's a question for y'all: if you're the Cowboys, do you re-sign Dak for $33 a year?
No.
He's not proven that he's worth $33 a year.
No.
If you say no to that and he walks and he goes to wherever, Tampa Bay or wherever the hell wherever they just want to cling to a life raft. So what do you do for quarterback instead? Do you go and enter into the Tom Brady sweepstakes, or what would you do if you were the Cowboys? I know this isn't like scripted or
Phillip
whatever.
Rivers, man.
Phillip Rivers.
Phillip Rivers. Pick him up. He's going to be cheaper than Brady. We know that. He's coming off kind of an iffy year, and Jerry has one of the best offensive lines in the NFL. Dude, Phillip Rivers, he's a pocket boy. Like, I don't think there's going to be a better place for him.
Interesting.
You can get him cheaper. If you can get him cheaper than Dak, and obviously Brady, dude, Phillip Rivers are 100%, and then take your fucking chances in the draft.
I almost think a person that you can get that is equally, in my opinion, equally talented to Dak, and will certainly be cheaper. Homeboy Teddy Roosevelt.
Yeah, I was literally joking. Teddy.
Teddy Bridge. Yeah, that's a good idea.
He's going to be great value, good quarterback this year. So if you want to save some money, his price is going to be cheaper than all the rest, but still, like, if you can get Teddy Roosevelt under 20 a year for, like, let's say a year or two, I think that's a really good deal.
I mean, McCarthy already knows how he works as a quarterback too, playing against him for a few years.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I forgot that he was our head coach now. Huh.
Yeah. Yeah, they definitely have options, so I don't think they need to.
If you keep it in New Orleans, somebody who McCarthy already coached, Taysom.
Yeah, but he didn't really know how to utilize Taysom. That was the thing.
Yeah, that's true. I think you're right that a more true pocket passer fits the scheme in Dallas a little bit better, especially since they got probably the best offensive line in the league. And they're a run-centric team in the first place. So I think if you're the Cowboys, you go for something that can save you some money and try to shore up your defense a little bit more.
Yeah. So I guess only things that I had left to mention, obviously the Super Bowl. What'd you boys think? I enjoyed it. I love the Chiefs comeback. I love me a comeback. 2019, year of the comeback.
I mean, when you have that high-powered offense, though, is it that much of a comeback?
They were down 3 possessions.
Yeah, they scored 15
minutes ago. Yeah.
How much were they down again? I know the Texans aren't as talented as the Niners, but how much were they down against the Texans? And then I literally get up, get a beer, take a piss, and come back, and the Chiefs are winning.
I think they were down like 24-7 or something like that.
In terms of offensive talent, this year's Chiefs was like the Golden State Warriors of football. It's the closest thing you can get where they can just go on this incredible run in 2 minutes or less, and all of a sudden it's a game again. You know, I think their their like fourth or fifth wide receiver is probably better than our second wide receiver as Packers fans here.
I mean, we don't have one, so
something is better than nothing. But a lot of people were shocked by it. I think when you have the talent that they have on the offensive side of the ball, I don't think if there's one team that could do it, it was probably them. So I wasn't as surprised.
Yeah, it was just it was so much fun to watch. And I guess the only other thing I want to mention was the retirement of one of the guys I've kind of always looked up to was Luke Kuechly retiring. Kind of when he retired, it hit me pretty hard because that's a man who I watched just before I was in high school all the way to now, and he was a true commander of the defense down in Carolina. So he definitely will be missed in the league for sure. Any other thoughts you guys had on the NFL before we move on? Oh, I guess we forgot to talk about it. Shoot. So because we didn't really mention it, which I guess kind of is a good thing. Thoughts on like LaFleur, Pettin, and obviously Goody after this year.
With what we had offensively, I think we did a really good job. I mean, there was a couple games, like both Lions games, that like we probably shouldn't have won, and that's like not okay. But with what they were working with, I feel like it was a very good freshman year for the head coach.
Yeah, and like Goody has shown again that we have a problem here. Can we fix it during the season or right now? Oh, we can. Okay, we're gonna do it, and went out and got a punt returner that actually can return punts. Like,
yeah.
I also think that for the first time, probably since I was born, we have a GM that's willing to go out and hunt down top tier free agents. That was the one thing that the entirety of Ted Thompson's reign was just us not signing the people that we need and him insisting that we grow talent within. And it did well for our receiving core. It seems like we always had the best receiving core. But when it comes to our defense, we never. I remember when they signed Julius Peppers and everybody was like, oh my God, this is the signing that'll change it all. Like, it shouldn't be that big of a deal to sign a marquee free agent. And
what's that old?
It kind of did, though. Like, that 2014 season doesn't happen without Julius Peppers.
I agree. But going out and getting the Smith Bros, I think, is an unreal addition that wouldn't have happened under the old regime. And I think people that were sneaky good, or going out and getting Amos. Amos was a monster this season. But I think I look at Jair and Darnell Savage and Kevin King. I look at those three, especially on the defensive end. And I'm just excited to see what comes next for those three guys because they are great young talent that I think are criminally underrated in terms of a secondary. Nobody talks about the Packers secondary in the conversation of really, really good, but I think they are in that they're just young. I think that's the one criticism you could give to them.
But have we seen Kevin King's ceiling though? That's the
absolutely
issue.
Not. No, that's
you don't think so?
I don't think so. I think he's made a lot of mental mistakes throughout the course of the season where he kind of beat himself. Because you got to understand, he's tall. He's got long arms. I think he's like 6'3" or so, 6'4" maybe. Mm-hmm. So he's big and tall, and you can put him on kind of slot guys where where your length can be utilized to get leverage over these like little out routes and little crosses and everything. I think that's where he would thrive most. But I think I don't think we've hit his ceiling yet. I think he's too young to be able to say that.
Okay. I'll just stand back and watch.
That's all you can do with a guy like that.
I guess. So I don't think there's anything else I want to mention.
All right. So, what are you gonna do when you're editing this video? All right. Make a picture of Jimmy Graham up on the screen. And put a big red X through him. You're done. You're done.
Friendship with Jimmy Graham over. Now Robert Tunyon's my best friend.
Unfollowed on Twitter.
All right. So we're gonna move on to I guess kind of our closing segment, closing thoughts. So a couple things I wanted to do. I know I mentioned this back in September, and before that, I also mentioned it back in May. And I was saying about how the men's soccer team at EW was going to be a lot better this year. I was completely wrong. They were absolutely garbage. We don't need to talk about it. The women's, though, they went all the way to the Sweet 16, but they lost to UCLA, who ended up losing to Stanford, who won it all. Women's volleyball, I don't know if you guys caught it. Pretty exciting season. Went all the way to the NCAA championship, but got swept by Stanford, unfortunately. Women's basketball at UW gave Sid Matheson and Sid. God, what is her last name? They're both named Sydney. Shit. But what is her last name?
The one from
I'm blanking
Monroe?
on it. Yeah,
Oh,
because there's Sydney Matheson and
yeah, I know what you're talking about.
God, it is
All
gonna
the
bother me.
Monroe people here know what you're talking
All the
about.
Monroe people, yeah, they know what we're talking about. You know who you are. You know who you are. Get in the chat. Give us her
Hilliard?
name.
So, yeah, Hilliard. Yep, you're right.
Sydney Hilliard. Thank
the
you.
non-Monroe guy comes through. Thank you.
Hey.
Gave them a Monroe Day, so like if you could prove you had a residency in Monroe, you got like a $1 ticket. You had to buy 4, but you got like a $1 ticket. So I thought that was pretty cool. Badgers wrestling was ham this year. I know they sent a lot of boys at the Big Ten, and they did pretty well. I think they're gonna have 3 making the NCAAs, 3 or 4 making the NCAAs. Minnesota high school state hockey tournament was a lot of fun to watch. Hockey hair team is back by popular demand.
He said he was done. How did he come back?
He comes back out of nowhere, drops probably the best video on a Saturday at 11:30 p.m. I was loving it, dude. Okay, so I like watching the intros. I was like making sure I was like watching as many intros as I could, just in case. And oh my god, the fucking Maple Grove and Lakeville South game. No. Lakeville South and EP Eden Prairie. Just straight up meme boys. Like one guy from Lakeville South comes out and does a snowplow stop, like a stop that you taught at like a super young age. And then there was an EP guy that just straight gunned it from the red line all the way to the blue line and just stopped and then just stared into the camera the whole time. Even when it was like slowly panning away, he still had his eyes fixed on it. Oh my god. And there was a kid from Maple Grove who gave a shout out to the boys. Didn't say hi to mom or dad, just straight up shout out to the boys.
Got all these young kids and their maymays.
Okay, but one thing I want to get to, because I kind of want to shit on the WIA right now. Not for canceling tournaments. I want to shit on them for the fact that the wrestling and the hockey broadcasts for the tournaments are not shown on TV. You have to have an NFHS subscription for it, and it was just pissing me off because it's like seriously, do we really need this? Do we really need to be watching like fucking fishing show at like noon on a Friday? No, show me these damn boys wrestling in the biggest thing in probably their life. You know, like same thing with hockey. Like their games are at a shitty time. They're playing at like 11 a.m. and then they're on the finals. There was like a game at like 10, I think, for Division 2. Like it's stupid. The intros for hockey are absolutely garbage. They literally just like do a little skate by the camera and then skate towards the end of the line. It's so fucking like I get that like you're trying to do your own thing, but like every single hockey introduction ever is literally skating up from the red line to the blue line. Like get with the program. It's so much better that way. And yeah.
I can tell you firsthand because I as part of my background, my senior year, I ended up going to state for wrestling, and I tell you, it's some of the most electric. People miss out on it because they don't broadcast it enough and they don't try to put it out enough. And wrestling's kind of a niche sport as it is, but just turn on a camera and pan across to a couple different matches because there's always, with that talent of wrestling, there's always bound to be one really good match going on at all times.
Oh yeah.
Because even on Thursday night when it's all people that took second and third in their regional or in their sectionals, I mean, even then there's some good matches because you got to understand that some of these sectionals get absolutely stacked depending on what schools end up going. And so you can have a sectional where the first place and the second place and maybe even sometimes the third place all come out of the same sectional depending on what division they're in. And so I think just turning on the camera and going from match to match, because even on Thursday night, you're going to find some guys that are like 45-4 or something ridiculous. So
yeah, like
I agree totally.
It's so silly. Like I went to actually watch a few years back to watch who was it? Sam Kine was wrestling. So I went to go watch him, and it's pretty insane being there. Honestly, like I wrestled in high school, so like I understand what's going on, but yeah, it's
one of the most
pretty fun atmosphere. Not gonna lie,
one of the most intense sports moments I had ever seen in my life, and this is professional all the way down to Pee-wee. One of the most intense moments I ever saw was the Division I state championship match at 182 my senior year when Bo Bresky, who was undefeated his entire career, lost in the state championship match. He was a 3-time state champion, and he was like, I think his record going into that match was like 157-0, and he loses on a takedown in overtime. And granted, it was kind of a bad call, but man, that was so electric. Or, in more recent years, you had Macy Hilty and what's his name, Zach. You had a kid with no hands and no feet wrestling against. Like unreal levels of, and that one actually did end up making like national coverage just because of how unique of a match it was. But there are matches like that every day, and I just feel like it doesn't get the love that it deserves.
Yeah, give these kids some love. Seriously, This might be like the biggest moment in their sports career, and they definitely deserve getting some attention. Not just the finals on Saturday, Thursday night, Friday night. Give the people what they want. Also, fix the fucking hockey intro. Holy shit! Jesus Christ! Oh my god, it was so bad. It was so cringy. So, anything else you guys want to mention?
Yeah, I want to mention the 2020 Australian Open. Started getting into tennis recently. No big deal. But,
no particular reason.
Novak Djokovic takes home the title. He's having a great year. He's undefeated currently in the all suspended now, so we're not really sure what's going on. And
Novak.
Then women's Sophia Kenin out of the US of A takes home the title. Pretty cool. Also look out, boys, for the young Coco Gauff. It's actually her birthday today. Happy birthday, Coco Gauff.
Is that like 16-year-old?
Yeah, she just turned 16. She made it to the 4th round in the Australian Open, her first professional tournament. She's gonna be good.
We've seen a young player since like Tiger be this good at an individual sport.
Yeah, not since, especially in tennis, not since like Serena has like a 16-year-old. She was 15 during the Australian Open, and she made it to the 4th round. So she beat 3 professional players at 15 to make it to.
She's so good that I know who you're talking about, and it's women's tennis. That goes to show how crazy good she is.
The Chloe Kim of women's tennis, if you will.
The Chloe, yes.
So I guess the last thing I wanted to mention was our recording schedule, as you may now know, is kind of messed up. So we are recording obviously today, which is March 13th. Sorry, get my days messed up here. And we were planning on recording this Sunday after this selection show, but there's no selection show. So we are canceling our March Madness preview. We're gonna keep our anniversary episode because we need to get to it. It's been a long time. We're gonna bring everyone back on, including the one, the only, the Nick Naylor. He'll be back on. We're gonna do that in about a week and a half. And then there'll be a little surprise coming up in April for everyone.
I don't even know what that is. So
that's kind of our outlook for the next month or so, and then hopefully by end of May, we'll have some sports to talk about again. But we're pretty much on the brakes. All brakes, no gas. Sorry, fellas. So my favorite part of the show, shout outs.
Shout outs.
So I got 3 big shout outs, all for the boys. Boys support boys here. So we got my boy Christian Opacic. He is out of the state, unfortunately. But I just want to give some shout out and some love to Christian. Miss ya. Come play hockey some Friday night with me. We got my boy that I play hockey with on Friday mornings, Nick G, the big man himself. He's got a big tournament coming up this weekend. He's going to bring it home for the boys. And then this man I do not know personally. I tried to find his Twitter account and I couldn't. But I did find his Elite Prospects account. His name is Ben Zargaj. He played, I believe, club hockey in college. Like, just finished his club hockey. And he wrote Elite Prospects in email saying that he wasn't like the best goalie, like he didn't have the best stats, but he did love the boys. And so if you look up Ben Zargaj on Elite Prospects right now, you will see on his profile that it says loves the boys. So nice. I just want to give a big shout out to my boy Ben for always loving the boys.
I'm gonna shout out first and foremost. I gotta shout out my man Brevin Pritzel. We didn't talk about him. We'll talk about him next week. But thanks for the career, man. From starting off hot and just nailing threes to kind of having a bad year to comeback season himself. It was really great watching you play for the Wisconsin Badgers, and I haven't liked someone like you since I love Frank Kaminsky. So shout out to Brevin Pritzel. Next week we'll talk about you more. But my other shout outs are, of course, Nick Miller for coming on the show and the rest of the electronics boys we have at Walmart. Zach, we mentioned, Anthony, and I don't know if I should shout out Troy. He kind of doesn't matter.
Okay, shout out to TJ as well.
Oh, and TJ, of course. But no, shout out to Troy. If you come to your local Walmart in Whitewater, 10-1, you'll see one of the combination of us standing in behind the desk talking about sports.
Sure, for sure.
Oh yeah.
This is my turn?
Yeah.
Well, first and foremost, shout out to you guys for having me on. This was it's fun to have conversations about sports with people who actually know what they're talking about, because so many times you go and have these conversations and it's just you can't even, it just hurts your brain that the person doesn't even if as Connor and I talked about in the Harden and Westbrook, the age-old debate, the milk before the cereal conversation that me and him have every day. At least the thing I respect about Connor is that at least he backs up the things that he's saying. We may differ on opinions, but at least he backs it up. So it's fun to have little conversations, little debates with people who know what they're talking about.
Can I back up my backup statement? So every time, this is how much I back up this argument we have. Every time Russell Westbrook has a good game, I will literally screenshot his stat line and post it in our group chat.
Little does he know, I'm just waiting for the Rockets to get bounced in the first round, and that's the only screenshot I'm gonna send. So that's what I'm waiting for. Waiting to shoot my shot. If there even is playoffs this year.
Yikes.
The one real shout out I do have though, on some real stuff, they just announced for women's basketball in Wisconsin high school women's basketball, they announced the all conference awards for different female basketball players. And so I gotta give a big shout out to my baby sister Kat, who is a freshman at our hometown Elkhart Lake, and she makes honorable mention for all conference as a freshman, being the leading scorer on her team and being one of the most discussed players in her conference among any age. So big shout out to her. She starts her AAU season, I think, on Monday. I think that's when she starts practicing every day for it. So huge shout out to her. She's a really dominant player. She had, I think, 260 some points in this season as a freshman, who probably, I don't know if she got the play that she probably deserved, but so big shout out to her. I'm so excited to see where she goes from here, because if she does that as a freshman, I can't wait to see what else she does. So shout out to Kat.
Kat, we love you. You got a big endorsement from the show. Keep it real. Keep balling. All right.
Balling.
It's almost noon. I need to go to Woodman's. Not a sponsor of the show. Just kidding. Woodman's sponsor us. Phil, call me. Love it.
I'm going to Culver's.
All right. Take it easy. Stay safe. Stay healthy. Wash your hands. We'll see you in a week.
Bear down! And they will fly back to Madison with Paul Bunyan's axe.
No, I think the first thing I want to say is I want to thank my O-line first. Sadiq, Adrian, Ed, Lloyd, D-Lou, Austin, Badara, Thad, our tight end with the chips, for guys like Chase. Those guys have been unbelievable this year, and I couldn't have done it without them. I got so many weapons on the outside: Terrace, Jamar, Justin. I mean, those guys have been unbelievable.
ed il mio bacio scioglierò il silenzio che ti fa mia. Dio è buono anche tramontate stelle, tramontate stelle, all'alba vincerò, vincerò.
Non sento la voce, non parto più. 1, 2, 3, voce!